and welcome to Cookie Pocket, an attempt at a podcast where we live by the ABCs: adventurous, brave, and creative.
Oh,
whoa.
Today, we will be talking about The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, directed and starring Ben Stiller. And that little ABC note at the beginning is a quote from the movie to our audience members who may not have experienced this yet.
which is possible.
And yes, yeah. Quite possible. And this is our last episode for this season.
Yes.
Season 1 is coming to an end. It's been a great run with these two guys, and we will probably be seeing you again, but somewhere a little down the line. So stay tuned and keep watching our old stuff if it entertains you, I guess.
Yeah.
It'll probably be there until we all die, so.
Yep.
Indeed. So let's talk about the film we watched. I thought that for the first time ever in this entire season, the first question to be asked might not be about general impressions and ratings out of 5.
Oh, my goodness gracious me.
Oh, no.
Do we think we can handle this radical energy?
I think so.
Okay.
I like being radical.
Okay, maybe not that much.
Let's go.
All right. My first question for you guys is, what did we think of Walter as a character and Ben Stiller as an actor? Because I feel like the answer to this question largely dictates what the rest of your general thoughts and rating out of 5 will be. So first, I wanted to hear specifics about what you thought of Ben Stiller and what you thought of his character, Walter.
I will say, jumping right to the Ben Stiller judgment, I like Ben Stiller quite a bit as an actor, and as a director to a certain extent. But I do think as an actor, both comedic and dramatic, he kind of has like only one mode that he plays in each of those. If he's doing something dramatic, he tends to play, I am an older, middle-aged, washed-up man who hasn't done anything with my life. And if he's in a comedy, he tends to play, I am white dad / dedicated man who's trying to do his job to the best of his ability, but wacky things keep getting in the way. And I think this movie kind of combines both of his one notes into this satisfying blend that isn't necessarily blended all that well. I think he plays this character well, and I think he plays the dramatic scenes well, and I think he plays the comedy well, and I think he makes Walter a very, very likable character, and I think he makes him a very relatable character, because I think most people at a certain level can relate to this idea of having dreams or wishes they never went out and tried to fulfill, or having some kinds of regrets to a certain extent, or wanting to do more with themselves. I think everybody feels that at some point. Even, the greatest adventurers at some point probably feel some kind of regret over, oh man, I wish I'd done that, or I wish I could have done this. Everybody feels that to a certain extent, and I think Walter is kind of representative of all that, and I think Stiller plays that well. But as for kind of the combination of the comedic and dramatic moments, which we can touch on a bit later, I don't think those two sides of his personality necessarily mesh as perfectly as the script wants them to.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Zach. I also like Ben Stiller as an actor, and I think he's definitely one of those actors that plays themselves, and it depends on how much he can apply his personality to a role.
Yeah.
That depends on how he can relate to the character he's playing. So it's kind of like Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford plays Harrison Ford and everything.
Yeah.
But
much, yeah.
he has a much more universally applicable personality and acting potential that he can utilize in a wide range of films. And I don't think Ben Stiller has that. But I also think that Ben Stiller is also a very good actor and a very good, relatable person in most, if not all, of the roles I've ever seen him in. And I think he has that going for him. But I think beyond being like an everyman and kind of like sometimes being funny and sometimes being dramatic like a normal person, I feel like the situations that he's in this film are a little bit too overdramatic. And I think there's a little bit too much comedy injected in the drama and vice versa. So like pretty much a different way of looking at it the way that Zach did. They definitely, there's a lot of moments where I definitely feel like it just does not work for his everyman character style. And I don't think that, I mean, a lot of the time I think Ben Stiller is a good cast for this, but I also can imagine a slew of other actors in a lot of the normal situations doing the exact same thing. So I don't think there was a lot that he really had to put forward being Ben Stiller in this necessarily, besides maybe the comedic moments. But I feel like the dramatic moments were just so over the top and so like imaginative. I don't think it really worked for Ben Stiller that much. For Walter Mitty as a person, I guess they kind of did. And I obviously, like Zach had said also, Walter Mitty is a very relatable character. He's very likable. And, you know, there's not really much you can hate on him about. He's not perfect and he makes mistakes, but like, he's not like, he's kind of like a perfect personality type of person. Like, he's so normal and so relatable that there's not anything that he does that you like, why would he do something like that? Like, he's such a bad person. Like, you never think that the entire film. And it's really just, I guess at that point, it's kind of just preference. Like, do you want him to be an everyman that makes mistakes, but he's always likable? But I mean, in my opinion, I don't think it really worked for this type of movie and how adventurous it was, and mixing in the comedy in there. I think a lot of the time it didn't totally mesh well.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. I think my experience, the first time I saw this movie was in theaters, sort of towards the end of its run, and I don't remember why it stuck out to me as something I wanted to see, but I do kind of remember this as the earliest film that I individually and personally really wanted to see that wasn't like a blockbuster or a Disney movie or a kids movie or something that I would typically, someone my age would want to see anyway.
Yeah.
And I think this was kind of my, in many ways, my first step into realizing, wow, there's this whole other world of movies outside of Star Wars and Disney. As stupid and naive as that sounds, when I was a kid, I kind of was unaware of all these other ideas that could exist and be intriguing and interesting to someone, even a younger person like I was at that time. So I think for that reason, I probably have a little added nostalgia and critical leaning in favor of this movie. Overall, I think Ben Stiller's approach as the everyman works really well, and the comedy and the drama being a little jarring is definitely true. Like the first time I saw the Benjamin Buttons bit, I was like, what the hell am I watching?
That one really stands out as just not belonging. Like,
But when I watched it with you guys, I was laughing like crazy because Zach was laughing and it was uncomfortable and we were having fun with it, I guess. I don't know.
I got into the doll store.
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of at some point a preference of how nonsensical you want it to get, but I really like how very much of a blank slate Walter is the entire time, even in big moments and even in the big flashbacks or zoning out sequences, I should say, where he's being a hero or someone otherworldly. He's still kind of got this blankness to him, and I think that sort of archetypal approach is what makes him so relatable. So I think that works well. Maybe the drama and comedy doesn't work as well, but I do think Ben Stiller's approach worked.
Yeah. Just to comment on kind of those daydreams, I don't think all of them don't feel like they belong in the movie. I think, I mean, this to make these all work, I think they would have had to make radical changes to their script that would have also kind of demanded that they shed what few references they have to the original short story. Because this is based on a short story about a pretty normal guy who dreams that he's like an adventurer. He has these daydreams. And I think the more adventurous daydreams in this kind of stand out as being kind of awkward and not feeling like they should be there because they're so big and so over the top. But I think the small daydreams, like him just standing up to the weird beard guy played by Adam Scott, just like telling him he doesn't look good in a beard. And like him daydreaming that he's going to go over and talk to Kristen Wiig's character. Like those small things, I think those are funny and feel like they belong. They don't feel out of place at all. And I feel like if they had just limited it to those, then the later segments where he goes on wild adventures maybe would have stood out as even more remarkable because it's so against anything he even imagines. But once again, that would kind of demand leaving behind basically any reference to the original short story, and it would just become Walter Mitty in name only, pretty much.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of it reminds me of the way that Forrest Gump was filmed, not like the daydreaming sequences, but like the way that Tom Hanks narrates himself while he's in these situations. And I think the pacing in that film is basically perfect for those types of things, and the way that they insert those scenes in completely non-related, whatever actually is going on in that plot at that time. And I think they just insert it perfectly. And I think in this, it's harder, it's harder, I should say, to relate to Tom Hanks's character, but it's also, and it's easier to relate to Ben Stiller's character. But I think it's just everything being so normal, and then instantly throwing this huge, like, the mountain and him with the accent and everything, and like, just, I understand it was all supposed to be over the top, and it's supposed to be like, this is what he dreams to be, and you can obviously see the foreshadowing that he's eventually going to be doing something very similar to that. So I understand that preparation for that, but honestly, I would think that it almost hurts the impact of him actually doing it also. Like, actually climbing the mountain, I was like, oh yeah, I just saw him do that in his daydream. Like, he's living his daydream, I get it. Like, that type of thing. That's kind of how I was feeling.
That's a good point on the impact being a little cushioned by the vision. I didn't think of that, but I totally see that. Our other lead in this movie is Kristen Wiig, who is better known for a lot of more comedic work. She was on SNL quite a bit, and she's done a lot of other comedic projects, but her character in this is pretty straightforward, just a nice, kind of witty, fun woman who Walter is drawn towards because of her kindness and the way she interacts with the world around her. And I wanted to ask you guys, what did you think of her performance? Was it weird for you to see someone who's so frequently done comedic and outrageous bits like the Californians to do something as grounded and sincere as this? And just what did you think of her character in general?
I mentioned this when we were watching the movie, but it really felt to me like Kristen Wiig's character in this was like written for Zooey Deschanel. Because this character feels so much like the typical Zooey Deschanel rom-com character. And that really, like, I felt like they were really pounding that home when she gets out the guitar and she's singing Major Tom. I was like, am I in 500 Days of Summer? What's going on? And I feel like her performance is also very similar. She does that kind of, like, quirky, quiet girl who says these kind of off-the-wall type things. I think she's a little less kind of, like, nervous and manic pixie dream girl as Zooey Deschanel, but it felt like a very similar performance. But with that in mind, even though it's not especially remarkable performance, I don't think it stands out all that much. It does what it needs to do. I mean, she's charming. You could believe that Walter would be drawn towards this character, and I think that's really her main function within the script. I don't think she's ever really called to do anything especially adventurous or meaningful or daring or even especially funny throughout the script. I think the main point is kind of for her to be there to motivate Walter in some way. Not necessarily like she's the princess in the castle or anything, but like the comments that she makes and the things she represents, I think kind of motivate Walter throughout the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Cheryl's just supposed to be like a coworker, down to earth, that she just, has her own kind of personality. She's kind of like bubbly and kind of nervous almost sometimes. But I mean, I don't know. I think Walter had, the really what it is like we were saying about Walter, he's supposed to be like an everyman, and like this is supposed to be like a normal thing. She's supposed to be like a normal woman, but he thinks of her way more than that. And I think the more normal that she is, the bigger the impact of him, daydreaming about her and things like that, when she's clearly just like a normal woman to us. And I think that's it. I think that's pretty much that's her role for the entire film. And, I think her and the daydreams and stuff works pretty well. Like Zach had said, pretty much whenever he's daydreaming about her, besides that one scene in the future.
Yes.
Besides that, every other daydream that he has about her that's not zany works really well for the pacing and for developing Walter's character. But I don't think I think Cheryl's supposed to be more static. throughout the whole film, and it was pretty much Walter's motivation, like Zach had said.
I did want to mention, I really like that this is kind of to a certain extent, it's kind of a romance between older characters. I like that the characters here are adults, and Cheryl has a son. It's not like the typical, like, these interns in their 20s might just make it work. Like, I think there's sort of a almost cheapness and fakeness to that kind of typical rom-com plot, and I like that they go with kind of a more genuine, casual, adult type love story.
Yep.
Yeah. You kind of, with that comment, Zach, you hit exactly the point I was going to make with why I liked Kristen Wiig's performance and her character so much, because it did feel a lot more natural, and it's actually a lot more realistic, and it feels more lived in for a character to have had an ex-husband and a kid, and for Walter to be kind of, and we really see Walter's life in these 2 hours just from the bits we get with his sister and his mom, and we learn about his dad passing away when he was a kid, and we get all this and because we get that backstory and this understanding that he's older now, it does feel like his relationships are a lot more natural than a younger rom-com, like you mentioned, Zach. So I did appreciate that. Towards the beginning of the movie, we see Walter on his first call with Todd from eHarmony because he's trying to send a wink to Cheryl, and it's not working because his profile is mostly blank. And Todd asks him if he has done anything noteworthy or mentionable. And in the vision that follows, when Walter saves Cheryl's dog from a burning building, she says, "God, you're noteworthy and mentionable." And it seems like a sort of central theme that Walter's aspiring towards the status of being noteworthy because of the things he's done.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you guys, has Walter's experiences made him any more noteworthy or mentionable than he was at the beginning of the movie? Do you really think that they have fundamentally changed the character or made him noteworthy and mentionable as this dating website would like to portray him?
Christian, I think it was inside him the whole time, and he just had to go to Greenland to realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I mean, okay, that's actually what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that his adventures give him the trappings of somebody who's noteworthy and mentionable. But I think in terms of like himself as a person, I think we see that kind of confidence was there all the time. It's just he didn't really know where to express it. Because in the scenes like when he's in the film development lab, or when he's showing Cheryl's son the skateboard tricks, we see that he's kind of an interesting, talented guy in the film development lab. He knows how to take charge, and he knows what he's doing. He's not like this just meek guy who hasn't done anything with his life. He does have skills and things that would be considered noteworthy. It's just he doesn't consider them to be noteworthy because he doesn't know how to apply himself. And I think kind of through his adventures around the globe, he learns how to apply himself and how to kind of put himself out there and do what he needs to do.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. And I think it's well communicated in that Cheryl is sort of drawn to Walter and understands the kind of person Walter is before he goes on these crazy adventures. And I think that's really mostly communicated in the bit where she's talking to him about what Space Oddity by David Bowie actually means.
Yeah.
As opposed to this bearded guy's snarky appraisal of a song he's probably heard on the radio twice, and he thinks it makes him a hipster for it or something.
Got a musician burn there.
Yeah. Thanks for accommodating this different approach to the discussion, guys. And now I'm going to ask for any other general thoughts you might have about the movie and for your ratings out of 5 on the work overall.
I enjoyed it. I liked this movie. I also kind of have a certain attachment to this movie because this is I think this was like the very first fictional film I was ever asked to analyze. Back in like 7th grade, I took a film production course that kind of introduced me to movies, and this was the first movie that we sat down and said, okay, what's the plot of this movie? How does it work? who are all these characters? What do they want? And it was the first time I kind of dissected a film as a story rather than just as a series of images and flashing lights that played in front of my face. So I think I do have a certain connection to it due to that. But even back then, I remember thinking there was something about it that didn't quite click for me. I think it has really big aspirations, and I think it wants to tell a really worthy, rousing story. It's interesting you mentioned Forrest Gump, Mitchell, because I remember when this came out, there were trailers that featured a quote from, it might have been Peter Travers or something, that said, "It's the new Forrest Gump, just go with it." And I think it is setting out to kind of be that kind of like Forrest Gump story for us all type thing. I think it's directed like that. I think it's produced like that. I just think the writing isn't quite there tonally. So it gets a 3 out of 5 from me.
I also definitely like this film. I saw it on video on demand with my parents, so I don't really have a big connection to it. But I do like Ben Stiller. I like Night at the Museum more than anybody. I don't know why, but I do. Maybe if I see it now, I'll give it a 1 out of 5, but who knows?
I saw that in the theater too, yeah.
Yeah. I like Ben Stiller. There's nothing I didn't like necessarily. I think there's a lot of things that don't work tonally, like Zach had said. I'm gonna stop saying like Zach had said. It's gonna sound like I'm talking for Zach. It's very dreamlike and inspiring, and there's nobody that can watch this and not get something from it. I think that it's not, I wouldn't like steer anybody away from it. I feel it's pretty much exactly what it sounds. There's a lot of adventurous scenes, great cinematography. There's a lot of really good shots, and this is a very, family friendly movie, and there's seeing somebody who's very, has dreams and fantasies and stuff and feels like he's not worth anything, and then going on these great adventures and realizing who he really is. If you're into that and you're really into like these optimistic, aspirations and stuff, and it's a very feel good film.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it accomplishes that very well. It might not necessarily be a really great film. There's not a lot of remarkable things about it necessarily. But if you like feel-good movies that are very Forrest Gump-esque and have Ben Stiller in it, then there you go. Yeah. So I give it a 3 out of 5. Pretty good.
Great soundtrack, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with much of what you guys said. I gave it a 4 out of 5, and I think that's mostly just my personal preference leaking through. Like, critically speaking, it probably is a 3 out of 5, but I just really, really like this movie, and it connected with me in a way that I would say no movie ever had before, honestly, the first time I had seen this. So, it's just, I think it, even if its execution is imperfect at times, I think it's a nice testament to how film in general can just move the viewer. Mm-hmm. And that a viewer can relate to this character that doesn't even exist. I think that's a really cool thing. So, 4 out of 5. I think it is time for the rundown, Walter Mitty edition. Yeah. We are running ahead of schedule, which is good because we have some wrap-up activities after this rundown.
We do.
Whoa!
Don't go away.
60 seconds for some last Walter Mitty bits. We've got a good list for you, Zach.
Okay.
Zach will respond with a rating out of 5 to everything we say to him, of course. Mitchell, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
The life motto.
3 out of 5.
Stretch Armstrong.
2 out of 5.
Home Slice cuts to Papa John's ad.
3 out of 5.
Ben Stiller as director and the lead.
4 out of 5.
Urkig's Neck.
3 out of 5.
Kristen Wiig as Cheryl Melhoff.
3 out of 5.
Todd from eHarmony.
4 out of 5.
Adam Scott's chin strap beard.
4 out of 5.
Not fearing the porpoise.
3 out of 5.
Zach as the telegram guy.
3 out of 5.
Small beer shoe.
3 out of 5.
This is a place of business, not a place of Jellyman toys.
4 out of 5.
Life, I'm loving it.
3 out of 5.
Having that Benjamin Buttons thing where you get older and gradually smaller or something.
2 out of 5.
Greenland the country.
3 out of 5.
Zoning out.
3 out of 5.
Processing quintessence.
3 out of 5.
Dumbledore looking good in a beard, not you.
4 out of 5.
Space Oddity by David Bowie.
4 out of 5.
Successful negotiating with Afghani warlords.
3 out of 5.
Clementine Gate.
Time!
You didn't hear that last one.
No, I didn't. Nope, nothing.
Nope.
Didn't hear anything.
I know where you live.
Oh. I didn't hear anything, I swear.
I almost talked over Christian. I was getting so excited. I was so ready to finish it. But 'tis is the nature of the rundown.
Yes, indeedly do. That is the
man.
truth. Alrighty. Wow, guys. It's been quite a season, but we are not done yet.
Not yet.
Yes. I have a couple wrap-up questions for the two of you. Just about the season in general. And I wanted to start off with sort of going over each of our three selections and asking each of us which movie they liked the most out of the other person's selection. So to simplify this, I'll ask Zach first. Zach, which movie of all of Mitchell's movies would you say you enjoyed the most? Not necessarily the one you think is critically the best, but the one that you enjoyed the most just as an audience member that wanted to enjoy a movie they were watching.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Mitchell chose a lot of war movies this season, which aren't usually my quite my bread and butter. But I do think I enjoyed Paths of Glory, but the movie you chose that I think I enjoyed the most was No Country for Old Men. I think that's kind of in a more accessible genre for me, and I think outside the confines of our discussions, I think that's just a cracking, fantastic film in general. Mm-hmm. I think anybody had chosen that, it would have ended up in these personal choices. If it had been compared to Christian's picks, if I was comparing it to my own picks, it probably would be my favorite regardless. I think it's a really great movie.
Wow. I really struck gold. That was my whole point, just to get Zach to give something a 5.
Amazing. I would probably have to say, the obvious answer is Beauty and the Beast.
Say it. I knew it.
I love that movie, and I love Disney.
Wow.
So yeah, that would probably be the most straightforward, honest pick. But if I'm really being completely honest with our audience and my co-hosts here, I had a smashing good time watching Austin Powers.
Oh, yeah.
I really did.
Yes. I wasn't thrilled with Austin, but I know you guys liked it a lot.
I had a lot of fun with it. I won. Yeah. I'm sure it would have been more fun if we were all together in person, but yeah, that was just something I had great fun with, just letting all of my standards fall out of my lap as I was watching it.
That's a real pass the popcorn movie. You kind of need the camaraderie of the room.
Yeah, for sure. Mitchell, which one of Zach's films would you say you enjoyed the most?
Oh man, most of Zach's films were horror films. I know that's just crazy talk. It's crazy talk. I've watched a lot of horror films, not nearly as many as Zach has by far, but I've seen a good breadth of films across a large bandwidth, I guess. I don't know why I'm going to use that term. I'm just kidding. I think I know why. I don't know. Jeez. I really liked every film we watched. I'm going to be honest, pretty much. There wasn't any I didn't like necessarily. A lot. Well, maybe Sergio. I don't know. But I'm going to look. We're talking about Zach. So, this is so hard. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't think about this.
It is hard. I really put you on the spot here, didn't I?
You really did. I'm gonna have to say which one I enjoy. The briefcase.
Okay.
That's mine. I can't say that.
That's true.
When I say a film I chose, what's the first one that comes to mind?
The Changeling, because that was the first one we did.
Oh,
okay.
that's a fine answer.
But that's not true. That's not true though. So okay.
Shall I go and we can come back to you?
No. You know what? Which one did I enjoy the most?
Yes.
Which one did I enjoy the most? I don't want to keep dragging this out. I gotta say, probably, Death of Stalin, which is gonna sound crazy, because critically, first of all, I didn't think it was totally that funny, but in terms of watching it with you guys, I think that helped, and also obviously the time period. And, the all-star cast.
Yeah.
So all those things, I think there were some really funny moments in it, and it was very enjoyable. I think a lot of what Zach had chose was kind of much more looked at critically, because I can't say like The Phantom Carriage was like a real hoot, a fun time.
Well, that was for me, but I understand.
Get out of here. Okay. Yeah. The Death of Stalin was definitely, I enjoyed that out of all of Zach's picks, and I know it's like selecting my own kind of genre a little bit, and it's kind of like a historical comedy, but I have to be honest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Zach, against all odds, I would say I really did enjoy most of your films. And I think, looking back on it, maybe my criticism of The Changeling was a little harsh.
Wow.
I will renege on that, or if that's the word, I don't know. I think when I first watched the movie, in terms of what I enjoyed watching the most, I think my answer is actually The Abominable Dr. Phibes.
Wow.
I had a pretty good deal of fun with that, despite some continuity errors, and I think it was actually like really, the pacing didn't really bother me at all. For an older movie, it didn't really feel like it required that much patience on the part of the viewer, which I like. I always like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. My follow-up, my like close runner-up is I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, because when everything went crazy towards the end of that, then I was like, I was totally engrossed.
Yeah.
So, but I'm gonna say Abominable Dr. Phibes, just because I really didn't expect to like it as much as I did, and just aesthetically, that one kind of sticks in my head the most of any of them.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. I'm more multifaceted than you think.
I'll keep that in mind for the future.
And now, lastly, assuming that you guys liked any of my picks, which of my films would you say you enjoyed the most on a personal level?
I think Christian knows which one I'm
look
gonna
at my
choose.
notes here.
I would say A New Hope. I think that's pretty obvious, but I think that's off limits for this. I think. But in terms of ones that, but then I could also say WALL-E. Wall-E's another Disney movie. That's not fair. No, okay. A New Hope is the obvious one. WALL-E is definitely my second / my top one that isn't Star Wars. And my third one that I definitely liked that wasn't either of those types. Maybe it'll probably be whatever Zach chooses.
Well, I'm going to take that as a segue. I've reviewed my notes pretty extensively here, and I am going to say, Christian, admittedly, I wasn't totally blown away by most of your choices this season. I think we have very differing tastes in films, and while some of them I definitely enjoyed, I don't think there were any that I was like, whoa, I loved that. But I did... Yes, I'm a used car salesman. Whoa! But I did really, really enjoy WALL-E. I hadn't seen that movie for a long, long time. And I think looking at it now from kind of a more educated standpoint on cinema, I think I got a lot more out of it critically than I did when I first saw it all those years ago. So that's probably my favorite choice, my favorite of your choices for this season.
Well, that's great.
Where does A New Hope line up on there?
See, for me, it's like WALL-E, and then A New Hope, and Sing Street, and a couple other movies are kind of in this amorphous blob. And then
it's like Rogue One.
And then Sergio and Rogue One are right down here at the bottom.
Oh, well. Yeah. All right.
That was an enjoyable movie. I'm not going to throw any flack at Sing Street.
All right. I'll take what I can get. Thanks, guys. I've just two more questions, and then we'll get to wrapping up. But what was one film that you liked more than you thought you would? I would say I kind of already answered this with The Abominable Dr. Phibes. I was kind of in the mindset of, this is another horror movie that I'll have to force myself to pay attention the entire time, even though I don't really care that much about what's happening on screen. But I was genuinely interested most of the time, and the opening bit with the bats like really freaked me out. And the weird band and the dancing and the whatever.
The Clockwork Wizards.
Yeah, and the set building was great, and I don't know. I for some reason, The Abominable Dr. Phibes is sticking out to me now. If retrospectively, I think I only gave it maybe a 2.5. But
Yeah, I think you only gave it a 2. I'm
that.
not sure.
I definitely up that to a 3
Wow.
at this point.
Whoa.
But yeah, that was one film that I liked that I did not expect to like at all. Now, did you guys like anything that you did not necessarily expect to like? I hope you did.
Out of everything?
I think
Yes,
everything, yeah.
Anything we watched.
Carnival of Souls, probably.
Oh.
Because I was like, I know there's something in here subtly that Zach has put in here, like, with his brain that's telling him that this is good, and I just haven't picked up on it yet. And even I'm, like, really tolerant with older films. Like, if not tolerant, actually, I enjoy a lot of older films. But I was like, this is definitely out there for me, and I was really confused, and that didn't entirely change towards the end. But when I figured out, like, what was the whole point, and by, like, the last, the last 20 minutes, I kind of knew, what the director was going for, and, a lot of the cinematography looking back really stuck out, and a lot of the older cliches that kind of developed later on, it was ahead of its time in a lot of ways. So I really did like Carnival of Souls a lot more than I thought. I think that's probably my biggest prospective mistake, I guess.
Yeah. I kind of have 2, if that's allowed. If the council will allow that. I think I got more out of Hearts War than I thought I would.
Yes.
Because I heard Hearts War. Mitchell reviewed it a week or 2, I think, before we actually watched it for the podcast on Twitter. And I saw the poster, which is like this extremely basic Photoshop job. And I thought,
it's a terrible poster.
It's an awful poster. And I thought, and I saw Bruce Willis, and I saw the date it came out, and I thought, oh no.
This is
Bruce Willis isn't going to care. This is going to be direct-to-DVD, patriotic Uber war garbage. I'm sorry, Mitchell, but that was what I was thinking. And going into it, I expected to be so bored. And going into it, while I wasn't blown away, I did enjoy it a lot more than I expected to. I don't think that movie is free from flaws or even free from boring moments, but I think it entertained me a lot more than I expected, and it did more interesting and unique things than I expected, given the year it came out and the type of film that it was. So I think that one kind of impressed me. And then I also expected, when we watched A New Hope, because it's well known at this point that I'm not really a Star Wars fan. I expected, like, oh boy, we're watching A New Hope, all right. And while I was maybe a little bored with bits of it, I did get a lot more out of Peter Cushing's performance in that movie than I remembered getting out of it when I was younger. Yeah. And he was kind of the line that pulled me through the movie. So Hearts War really impressed me, and then to a certain extent, 1 or 2 aspects of A New Hope impressed me more than I expected them to.
I guess I should have known a Cushing devotee such as yourself might have some issues with Rogue One. That makes perfect sense to me now. I don't know why I didn't earlier. Yeah, and I just answered with Dr. Phibes, but I feel like I should give some credit. Watching The Briefcase was less painful than I thought it would be. Credit to Zach for being a better director than I thought he was. And
Christian being a good actor. Ooh.
Yep.
I don't know about that one. And credit to Mitchell for Paths of Glory. I genuinely enjoyed Paths of Glory, and I completely
Kirk
thought I would hate
face.
it.
Kirk Douglas's face.
Kirk Douglas's face was okay by me in this one. So, yeah. Kudos to both of you for making me like things I did not think I would. Yeah, that's about all I have in terms of discussion, but I did think we would try one more segment here. Every episode we've done the rundown, which is sort of a culmination of terms and words and what have you from the movie we've discussed in the episode. And more often than not, given our staunch 60-second time limit, clever wordplays and quotations and fun things from the movies we've seen have slipped through the cracks, never to be found again. Until now.
Oh no. That's the epic
one last
version.
rundown to rule them all, consisting of some bits and pieces that have fallen through from other episodes and a couple references to the season at large. And some of these will make sense on their own. Some of them, maybe not so much, but we're going to roll with it.
If you want to know
Mitchell?
about the ones that don't make sense on their own, watch the season.
Yes, do that.
And then in the series finale, we'll have a rundown of all the ones we missed in the finale of
Yes.
the season.
It'll be 5 hours long.
Oh, man. Someday. Oh, my goodness. Mitchell, are you ready to do the honors of starting us off one last time for season 1?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And a 3, 2, 1, go.
Evacuating in a moment of triumph.
3 out of 5.
Mitchell's God tier impersonations.
3 out of 5.
Judo chop.
2 out of 5.
Profane sacrilege through misplayed organ.
3 out of 5.
Papa, can you hear me?
2 out of 5.
Being a futurist vocalist.
3 out of 5.
The Cookie Pocket Jingle trademark.
3 out of 5.
Carriages for the town asylum.
3 out of 5.
Flawed men doing their best.
3 out of 5.
The Millennium Falcon.
4 out of 5.
Abnormally aggressive wolves that don't attack.
3 out of 5.
Madison Garrigus as location scout.
3 out of 5.
War movie tropes.
2 out of 5.
Brown shoes as in the shoes.
3 out of 5.
Candace Hilligoss as Mary Henry.
3 out of 5.
The contents of the briefcase.
3 out of 5.
The variety of films we chose for season 1.
3 out of 5.
Hello, filth.
3 out of 5.
Clementine cake.
3 out of 5.
Time.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think we
Did we
hit
get
the
through a
main
decent
points.
amount? I don't know.
Yes, we had a couple left over, but you know how it goes, everyone. That is just the nature of the rundown.
Yep.
So sad.
Yeah. Well, it has been one heck of a season, pals. I'm very glad that we could do this, and I'm looking forward to revisiting this in the future. And to all of our listeners out there, keep listening. Our stuff will be up on our platforms in perpetuity, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Zach and Mitchell, for making this an enjoyable summer. And yeah, thanks for listening to our listeners, and goodbye.
Adios.